Good morning, I am live at 10 o'clock. I'm hoping I'm live. I was actually just waiting for my archaic computer to get going so I could see if I'm actually live on there. But I think in this very first Think Tank Thursday, what I want to do is just give you a bit of an overview of what this is all about and why this is really important and why it's kind of been an idea and a desire in my mind to share this like on the regular so that everyone can see how you can integrate it into your everyday life. And I'm really going to do my best not to overthink this and not to allow my own marvellous mind to get the better of me. If you haven't seen any of my lives, my videos before, I have got a few on YouTube. It's kind of, this is the beginning of something much bigger, and one thing I always say is like I don't script, so anything that I am saying right now is kind of from the heart and not from a piece of paper, but it's my hope that as the week goes on and as I kind of step up the pace within this group and on the other social media platforms and what have you that I use, that you will get a sense of how the work that I do can be embedded into your own life. And I am happy to start like from the bottom. And when I shared the Q&A this week, I knew, maybe this is why it came true, who knows, I knew that I would really be starting by explaining what the think tank is and maybe giving you an example from my own life so that you can see how it reflects on yours. I try in every workshop, group coaching session I do, even in one-to-one sometimes if it's relevant, to kind of share examples from my own life, because I think that quite often we get stuck in our own experiences and it can make us feel extremely alienated, and that is half the battle in terms of being able to overcome whatever it is that we're navigating in life. So the think tank is something that has been born from the professional training that I've been through and from the understandings that I've taken from my own experiences. So way back, and I'm going to probably say about 5+ years, I first came across what is described as the belief cycle. If you Google belief cycle, you'll see a number of different sort of maps and images that come up to represent that. And really what it's doing is explaining how the beliefs that we hold influence our experiences in life. And really that's the way in to start to change those experiences. And do you know what, the one note that I have got, and I've written it in red, I'll show you just so that I don't forget. We get stuck in our heads, but we don't notice what is actually going on in our heads. So really this is the purpose and the point of what I'm going to teach every single week. Is to show you that the majority, if not everything, that we experience is a reflection of how we're interpreting things within our minds. But we get stuck in our heads, so we get stuck in those, everything's awful, I can't do this. And I have had that experience myself very recently. One of the key philosophies and lessons that I teach is that it is actually normal. It really is normal. So take that as the foundation of everything that I'm going to teach. If ever you experience being stuck in your head, the negative thought cycles, the overwhelm of those perceived negative emotions like anxiety and stress and sadness and anger and all of those things, they really are normal. But what you can do is make what is presently an unconscious experience, it's just the way we experience life on a day-to-day basis, we're going to make it conscious so that you can notice those moments and those experiences where you're brought down or something feels difficult or hard or upsetting, and you can go, okay, so that's what's going on. And that's your opportunity to change the experience. And I want to caveat that with, sometimes we don't want to change it. Sometimes we really want to wallow in misery. And I don't know if you've experienced that yourself, but I have, and I notice myself doing it. I notice myself going, this is, and it's just the way it is. And I can hear myself saying those words, and even with my training and my awareness and my ability to help others, the human mind, the human experience will make you go, but I want to wallow in this because I don't like it. And I don't like it, therefore I'm just going to grumble about it. But when you know this stuff, you can see it for what it is, and you can see it as being a choice rather than something that we are at the mercy of, right? And this is the thing, is we tend to be at the mercy of our day-to-day experiences, or maybe specific big situations that life throws at us. And it's okay to wallow, and it's okay to feel crap, and it's okay to get cross and to do things or adopt habits that are unhelpful, providing you remember that A, it's human, and B, you remind yourself that you can change it. So this is, in a nutshell, is what the think tank is about. It's kind of like a diagnostic tool that enables you to see your circumstances for what they are. And it's my hope that as the weeks progress, and I am not expecting any miracles here, as the weeks progress, you will be able to go, do you know what, Lynn? This is going on for me. And so that might be a situation at work. Maybe it's the behaviour of someone else, whether it's a colleague or a boss or a client. Maybe it's actually not about someone else, but about you and the way that you feel. Confidence is something that comes up all the time in my work. And by the way, all the time for me as well. Like, I have to take deep breaths before I do stuff like this, and I'm only doing this to this little group of 30, which I hope will grow over the weeks. And then once I get into the swing of things, I'll start doing this live across Instagram and stuff like that. But for today, it's just for you guys. And if I like it, I might share it. So whatever those situations or circumstances, the kind of pockets, areas of life, I always think about the wheel of life when I talk about this. You have various areas of life that influence your sense of well-being. So let me just give you this as a snapshot of how you could apply the think tank, and then I'll go into giving you an example. So one of the principal areas I've mentioned already is career. That might be your own business. It might be your career in terms of working for others, Some people don't consider the work that they do to be a career, it's just a job. So whatever it is for you, that could be one area that is influencing your sense of well-being, your sense of happiness, joy, peace, whatever. It might be your financial situation. This is something that I've started sharing quite a lot about since the holidays. This has been a massive deal in my life and certainly influenced my overall well-being immensely. It might be for some your health and fitness or health and well-being. So how active you are, how well you feel, the choices that you make from a nutrition perspective. It's another really, so lifestyle, kind of band that under lifestyle. Motherhood is another area of life that we can talk about within this group and in relation to the think tank. Your relationships. There are two sides to relationships, and I do kind of separate them. One is your intimate relationship, so that might be your marriage or partnership, or indeed your lack of one, right? It is an enormously significant part of our lives and is incredibly relevant to everything that I teach. But then the other side of relationships is those wider relationships. And again, two separate areas. One is your social life, your friendships. And as we get older, I mean, I'm in my mid-40s, and, our social circles change significantly. And how much time we spend outside of the four walls of our house changes significantly. How frequently we keep in contact with those people with whom we have a social relationship or a sociable relationship, our friends, and sometimes our family as well. And then that's the other part, is our wider family, is another area of relationships which often influences our sense of well-being as well. Personal growth. Now this is one that is a little bit ambiguous, I think. That sense of feeling like we're progressing in life. It's actually a human need. But it means something different to all of us depending on how clear we are on what we want from life, and what we have learnt through our life in terms of, what does it mean to us? What does it mean to you, personal growth? Does it mean academic qualifications? Does it mean spirituality? Like, we are all completely different. So that's a little bit more of a grey area. So those are some of the significant areas of life that you'll find on the Wheel of Life. And the Wheel of Life is something else that you can Google, by the way. I thoroughly encourage you to do that. And just see which ones come up for you. What I'll do actually is, once I finish this live, I will share a PDF of the think tank, and I will share a PDF of my Wheel of Life, so that you can just play around with it and see how it works for you. So all of those things that I've just mentioned are topics. They're areas in which we find difficulties, and what I teach is where you find a challenge in one area of life. Let's say it's in your marriage, in your relationship, or lack of one, right? It's like a drop that falls into water, and you imagine those ripple effects that come from that, and those ripples impact your parenthood, they impact your lifestyle choices, they impact your self-confidence in your business, career, work, which may impact your ability to navigate and control your finances. I mean, it is the order varies, right? Because we're all different and our priorities and the importance of some of these things will differ between all of us. But I want you to recognise that it's never just one thing. If you say, this is the bit that I'm struggling in, I promise you, if that is the most significant piece at play for you, and we solve that dilemma, that challenge, we find peace, we find flow, that will have a positive ripple effect, a positive knock-on effect to those other areas of life that are really important to you. So I'm thinking about how the best way to do this. Now, I've got my trusty whiteboard and it's actually suddenly gone really dark, and I'm hoping that you can see this. And we're just going to have to play this by ear and see how this works. I don't normally stand up to do lives, but I felt it was kind of helpful in this. But I just want you to recognise what this spells. So this is the think tank, and I think I called it the think tank because I always saw it as in, right, what am I putting in the think tank today? What is the thing that I am noticing in my life today? And that's what I would start with, is what am I noticing? What am I noticing? So let me just give you an idea of what I mean by that. Are you noticing your situation? So the S stands for situation, circumstances, facts. These are the things that you cannot argue with, right? It's not the experience of our life, that's something different. It's the actual things that are going on. So it could be an illness, a redundancy, a divorce. If someone has specifically said something, I'm not talking about your interpretation of what they've said, but if they have said words and you can write those words there, someone said XYZ, that is a situation. It's something that you cannot argue with because they uttered them. Okay, so we might notice, that might be what we notice as a number one, the situation. We might notice, and I'm going to skip over that, we might notice our emotions. I'm starting with the most significant ones that we notice. Most of us notice, if we wake up in the morning and we are feeling anxious, we notice that. If we're feeling stressed, we notice that. It's one of the kind of the signals that sends people to my door, right? It's that waking up and feeling like today's a foregone conclusion. And that tends to be because we notice that emotional expression of that. Anger, stress, anxiety, overwhelm, all of the stuff that we perceive to be negative. Perceive is a really important word here. So our emotions or feelings. And the A is the next one that we sometimes notice. And that would be your actions or your behaviours, or that classic word that we often want to get over, take control of, our habits. So the think tank is brilliant for identifying the patterns that come before and after an unhelpful habit or an unwanted habit, whatever that might be for you. Staying in bed too long, working too much, saying yes to everyone, eating too much chocolate, drinking too much wine, all of that jazz. These are actions and behaviours that we might notice. I could go off on a tangent on some of these, and I'm going to try not to. I'm going to rein in my marvellous mind. And the final one that we might notice, and these are kind of in no particular order, but I'm starting with the most significant ones. Our results. If you feel like you are not getting anywhere in life, or in business or in relationship, that's a result. If you feel like you're constantly in an argument with your significant other or someone else, that could be seen as a result. A slightly more abstract way of looking at results is no sleep. Maybe you're not sleeping. That is a result of something that came before, and so on and so forth. Another way of describing results, which might help you to find out what that is for you, is your experiences. And further down the line, I want to teach you various ways of using the think tank. And one of them is to look at results as goals. So well, I'll leave that there. So you've got situation, emotions, actions and results. If I go back to what I said earlier, the note that I'd written down so I didn't forget it on my whiteboard. We get stuck in our heads, but we don't notice what is actually going on for us. And that's our thoughts. So another way of describing your thoughts might be your beliefs, your interpretations, sentences in your mind. It's the meaning that we give to the situations or circumstances in which we find ourselves. And so it's called the think tank because this is the key piece. It actually starts with your thoughts. And if you look at this, what it spells is tears. Because that's what we drive ourselves to. And maybe you do it on the regular. Maybe this is something that you just get caught out with every now and again. But there are always things that we can do about those experiences that we want to rid ourselves of. And it always starts with the thoughts in your mind. So I was pondering on what to share with you, and I'll keep this brief because I really want these lives to be sort of up to about half an hour, but I obviously won't need to teach you all of this all over again every single time. I spotted a video by a colleague, and it just sparked in me something that I recognise in myself and that I know for sure comes up for some of the people that I work with, most of the people that I work with. And so I'll describe that situation to you because that's what we'll start with. And I think it would be helpful over the weeks if I just kind of give you a bit more of an insight into my life to date, because that you'll see how it shapes the way that we are, the way that we feel in certain situations. So I want you to imagine a social situation of some sort. So that might be with siblings, or a group of friends, or a group of colleagues, mums from school, somewhere where you are part of at least, well, in some cases maybe just one person to be fair, but often a few more people. And they're talking about stuff. Now, maybe that's about world events, right? There's a whole heap of crap going on in the world right now that you could choose to give your focus to. And often the topic of intellectual conversations, and I'd say intellectual because that's kind of the key word here for me. I'm giving you an example from my own life. So let's write that in there. So you've got let's say a social chat. Now, what I notice, as well as that situation, is that I feel uneasy. Let me just put uneasy. When you're doing the think tank, think about it in the sense of, I'm just trying this on for size. What is it that goes in here? In that situation, how do I feel? Is uneasy the right fit? Is anxious the right fit? For me, I think uneasy is probably the most aligned. That's the right word, Lynn. Aligned. And I want to identify how I behave in that situation. If I'm feeling uneasy in this group of people who I know, right? They're not strangers. That's a whole other thing. Networking events. If you're in business, right? This will help you. But how do I behave when I feel uneasy? Am I myself? Am I talkative? Am I funny? Am I engaging? No, I'm bloody not. I retreat. I stay quiet. I don't contribute to the conversation. So if I just put, I withdraw here. I withdraw. I withdraw from the conversation, the topic that is being discussed. And in that situation, like what's my experience then of that situation? If I'm feeling uneasy and I'm withdrawing, I'm not present. We get stuck in our heads. I'm in my head. I'm not present. I'm not relaxed. I'm not peaceful. My experience is probably going to be more unsettled. Like, it's just not a nice feeling. And the payoff is how this experience influences that situation, because quite often these situations that cause us unrest, they're not just one-offs. They happen again and again. And so if you imagine then in advance of another social get-together, another coffee, another talk in the playground, another meeting at work, how am I then going to feel prepared? Well, I'm going to be feeling more anxious ahead of that next time. You know, it creates like an expectation of how things are going to pan out. So before that even happens again, you're already feeling uneasy. But the one that I haven't filled out is the thought. Well, the thought is, oh God, they're speaking about intellectual stuff. Maybe I'm just not that interested in what they're talking about. Maybe I feel like I don't know enough. But ultimately the thought is, I don't have anything to contribute. And I just want you to notice, if you ever have that in your own life, like those moments where you shut down, where you feel like you're not enough for that particular situation. You know, and if you apply the same principle to situations like interviews or I'm just thinking about my own life, you know, if I applied that to a situation where I was meeting with a potential client, that would be an issue. It would be an issue for me. When you see it for what it is, you can get over yourself much, much quicker. So I am going to wrap up here, but I'm going to wrap up by giving you something to think about in your own life. This is a really, really simple question to ask yourself in any situation. In any situation. I'm going to refer you again to the work of someone else. When I did my coach training, one of the areas that we studied is a lady called Byron Katie, and you can check her out, and she does what she calls the work, and that influenced this model that I created. You won't find this anywhere else, you'll find similar things. And she basically asks a series of questions. Now, we are going to dive into those because they're really relevant to this. But for now, I want to ask you the first question. Your opportunity to change your experience starts by seeing your situation for what it is. So when you identify what it is that you're thinking in relation to your situation, or what you're noticing in your life, is it true? Is it true that I don't have anything to contribute to this conversation? Is it true that what I think, my point of view, isn't relevant? You know, and really, there are very few occasions, and we will explore those where there is the opposite, but there are very few occasions, battery's low, there are very few occasions in which it can be argued as true. That thought, that belief, that interpretation of a situation that you've got in your mind are more often than not facts. I definitely have things to contribute, but we worry about how we will be perceived, and there's another conversation and another way in which the think tank can help you. So if it isn't true, what could be truer? Well, I do have something to contribute. I do have something to contribute. And if I were thinking that rather than I don't have anything to contribute, I'd be far less likely to feel uneasy. I would be far more likely to take part rather than withdraw in that situation. And my experience, the results of this pattern, they're all patterns, would be one of contribution, connection, collaboration, friendship, not feeling unsettled, you know, and then the knock-on effect is it's like a compound effect. When you start to notice the cycles and you start to change them, the compound effect is a positive one. It means that ahead of the next situation, you're not feeling unsettled, you're not feeling worried. You're more likely to show up in a way that you want to. And therein lies the positive outcome and the positive compound effect. The first think tank. I would love to get some insights into what is going on for you. And I promise you that whether your challenge is in money, business, career, relationships, motherhood, family challenges, social challenges, a sense of not being enough, a need for personal growth, you know, whatever it is for you, I promise you there'll be someone else that feels the same, that has a similar experience, and we can explore what these cycles look like together. And I won't need to go through it all over and over again, and you'll get it and you integrate it and it changes everything. Take it easy.